When we think of the Korean War, most histories focus on the front lines, the dramatic advances and retreats, the standoffs at the 38th parallel, or the firepower imbalance between the United Nations forces and North Korean and Chinese units. What is less often discussed and rarely explored in depth is how soldiers managed the very infrastructure that made combat possible in sub-zero winters. Tents, barracks and makeshift bunkers failed at an alarming rate, and entire units struggled simply to stay warm, dry and operational. The failure to account for the persistence of cold in timber and soil was more than an inconvenience. It cost lives and slowed campaigns, influencing decisions in ways historians have overlooked. The lesson here is immediate and practical. Structures, materials and knowledge about cold climate construction matter in warfare as much as weaponry. This applies as much to historical survival as it does to military history. If you value carefully researched, detail-driven history that goes beyond the battlefield, consider subscribing to In the Beginning. Understanding how past societies solved environmental problems, sometimes with nothing but timber, stone and ingenuity, offers insights that remain relevant today. The durability of timber depended on how it was selected, stored and treated. Timber seems simple. Cut a tree, shape it, and build. Yet across Northern Europe and Asia, the longevity of wooden structures hinged on meticulous choices that most modern observers overlook. The Vikings, the Sami, and later Scandinavian settlers understood that species, age, and even the time of year a tree was felled determined how long a building would last. Softwoods like pine and spruce were abundant, but their longevity was enhanced when harvested in winter. Cold season felling reduced sap content, making wood less prone to rot and insect damage. After cutting, logs were often air-dried for months or even years. Improper storage could expose timber to moisture, frost or fungal growth, shortening its lifespan. Military engineers during the Korean War often disregarded these traditional methods, leading to bunkers and barracks that warped or rotted under repeated freeze-thaw cycles. So, the principle is clear. Longevity begins long before construction. Selecting the right material, timing its harvest, and, controlling its exposure to the elements were really foundational practices in historical cold climate architecture. One of the most remarkable aspects of northern timber construction was the widespread use of joinery techniques that, interestingly, required no metal fasteners. Mortise and tenon joints, interlocking corner notches, and wooden dowels absorbed structural stresses instead of transferring them to a single weak point. This technique was absolutely essential in climates with dramatic temperature swings. Wood expands when warm and contracts when cold, and timber, in constant freeze-thaw cycles, can split if stressed improperly. Interlocking joints allowed buildings to breathe without collapsing. Archaeological excavations in Norway and Iceland reveal longhouses standing for centuries, often without a single iron nail, precisely because the builders accounted for material behavior under extreme environmental stress. Modern military planners frequently underestimate this principle. Prefabricated buildings in cold regions fail, not simply because of wind or snow alone, but because their rigid fasteners just can't accommodate natural movement. Historical timber solutions, honestly, suggest a far more resilient approach, designed for movement, not rigidity. Timber was, rarely left exposed. Roofs, in particular, were engineered to withstand both the weight of snow and the penetration of wind-driven cold. Heavy thatch, bark and sod layers provided insulation, while steep angles in some regions prevented excessive snow accumulation. In other cases, slightly lower-pitched roofs actually allowed snow to act as an additional insulating layer. Walls were thick and often layered, sometimes combining timber framing with turf or stone infill. This approach created mass that retained heat from fires, bodies, or even the sun, while slowing the loss of warmth to the outside. Fire was important, of course, but as with Viking longhouses and early Scandinavian farms, it was supplemental. Most of the warmth in these structures was passive, controlled through material choice and architectural design rather than, constant combustion. Korean war barracks often neglected this principle. Thin plywood walls and lightweight materials allowed heat to escape rapidly, forcing soldiers to rely heavily on stoves. In cold climates, structural mass is, honestly, more reliable than temporary heat sources. Sub-zero winters, really highlight the importance of building placement. Timber structures set directly on frozen or waterlogged soil are at risk from frost heave, moisture, and rot. Historical builders mitigated these risks in several ways. Longhouses and barns often rested on stone footings or were partially sunken to stabilize temperature. Some northern settlements even incorporated raised planks or sleeper beams to reduce contact with the damp ground. During the Korean War, many temporary shelters, ignored foundational engineering entirely. Buildings installed over frozen ground without insulation or drainage frequently warped as the soil beneath thawed and refroze. Learning from historical methods, stone pads, drainage trenches, and partial earth sheltering could have reduced structural failures and improved troop readiness. Historical timber architecture often integrated heat retention in ways that, modern construction tends to overlook. Smoke holes were small and carefully placed to manage warmth. Central hearths were positioned near thermal mass, like stone floors, walls, or benches, so they could absorb heat and release it slowly over time. Bedrooms and sleeping platforms, interestingly, were elevated just a bit, helping to avoid cold air pooling near the floor. Animals were sometimes housed within or adjacent to buildings to provide a consistent low-grade heat source. These measures allowed homes to stay habitable during long winters without the need for a constant fire, a crucial lesson for survival-minded engineers and military planners alike. Even in military contexts, these passive heating strategies could have been, absolutely life-saving. Barracks, mess halls, and storage sheds tend to fail first when heat is treated as an active commodity rather than a retained resource. Timber techniques from the past really emphasize that warmth is a function of design and material, not just combustion. Longevity is not achieved at construction alone. Historical builders knew that timber requires inspection and upkeep. Gaps in joints, small water leaks, or pest infestations were addressed promptly. Some communities scheduled annual maintenance aligned with seasonal cycles, such as after the thaw when minor repairs were easiest to perform. Korean War engineers often lacked time or understanding for such practices, leading to preventable degradation. Observing these historical practices offers a dual lesson. The environment is relentless, and active stewardship of materials is as critical as initial design. Modern construction has replaced timber with engineered materials, insulation, and forced air heating. Military engineering often mirrors this approach: rapid deployment, minimal on-site preparation, reliance on fuel and prefabrication. While effective in the short term, these methods are vulnerable to supply disruption and environmental extremes. Historical timber techniques demonstrate an alternative philosophy designed for longevity. Let materials manage environmental stress and integrate passive systems wherever possible. These lessons are relevant not only to historical study, but to modern survival strategies, cold climate habitation, and resilient engineering. Military planners, disaster response architects, and modern homesteaders all rediscover these principles under different circumstances. The underlying logic remains unchanged. When you understand material properties and environmental constraints, structures last longer, perform better, and consume fewer resources. The structures that survived centuries in harsh climates did so because builders paid attention to details often dismissed as mundane: joint design, wall thickness, material choice, passive heat retention, and continuous maintenance. Fire was supplemental. Preparation and understanding were primary. These lessons matter because they reveal how human ingenuity interacts with environment, not just conflict. Military history often focuses on battles, logistics, and strategy, but the endurance of structures and the survival of people within them is just as significant. Recognizing these details enriches our understanding of past societies and provides insights that remain practical today. If you value carefully researched, detail-driven historical analysis, subscribe to In the Beginning. Share this video with others who want a deeper understanding of the technologies and methods that allowed people to endure the cold long before modern heating and prefabrication. These stories endure because the knowledge behind them works if we pay attention.